Hey everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. My name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. Today we're going to do our daily technical analysis update of commodities, work our way through the dollar, yields, precious metals, and commodities and ETFs that I follow. I'm going to interject my financial opinion as we go through it. And if you guys need any help with anything, check out finding-value.com. That is where I dive into individual companies, individual sectors, what you can see exactly what I'm doing, what my portfolio is, and what I'm buying. And I just updated some purchases today if you're interested in seeing what I purchased today, if you're a part of the community. All right, guys, let's dive in here. Let's see what's going on in the markets today. So looking at the dollar, to me, it looks like we're ready to break to the upside for the dollar, potentially. It's not clear cut broken yet, but this does look very similar-esque to what oil is doing. And to me, it kind of looks like we could potentially break. Now, it very well could roll over if yields were to decline. So what I would do is I would not just stare at what this chart is telling us with a resistance line, trend line coming through. We're basically on that resistance support line, is I would look further into yields because yields is a driver of the dollar strength and weakness. So we're on this kind of breaking through it, kind of not breaking through it, dollar area right where we're at the trend line. Now the 2-year yield, I still think this looks good to continue higher. The reason I say that is we've got two large green candlesticks with a small bloody nose candlestick. And what I've seen in history is that this is generally a continuation pattern. We are up against resistance though. So it's not going to be a clear cut, oh, we're just going to break out of this super easy. We very well could come back inside of this channel. So it's not clear cut. We haven't broken through the trend line or anything like that. But yeah, we can still look at the longer end of the curve here. The 10-year looks pretty strong, and that does look like it will continue to the upside. The 10-year looks strong. Yields were up 1% today, and then the 30-year, the yields were up 1.4%. And this here is a continuation pattern to the upside, and it looks good to continue higher. That's what I'm seeing on the long end. So the short end, it can go either way in the short end because we're up against resistance. It still looks good to try to break through that resistance. And the long end definitely looks good to go higher. So the TYX TNX ratio, we pulled back. The curve inverted some to the downside when we look at the 30-year versus the 10-year. The 30-year went up more than the 10-year today. Bond prices were down, and we're back to that support level that goes across of this white line acting as strong support. Now, we're on that support level. We've got momentum on the 10-year and 30-year of it going down. So we'll see if that support holds. My opinion is that the momentum is going to go into that support, and we'll see if it can hold. The 2 and 10-year, we came back down the curve uninverted with the 2-year going down 0.3%, and then the 10-year was up 1%. So that's what's causing the uninversion. It's not that the curve is falling from a recessionary fear necessarily. It's inflationary pressures being priced in on the long end of the curve is the way that I view it. So looking at gold, gold is up today, but again, I'm waiting to see how gold reacts here because when we've got a couple of tailwinds and headwinds in gold. The tailwinds are the curve's uninverting and potentially there is a slowdown eventually out in the future. I don't think it's necessarily immediate, so that's something that you'll have to figure out. We've broken this down, the uptrend here to the downside. And then we've got increasing yields, which is also a headwind for gold. So we are up today, but the momentum is to the downside. We've got silver, which was also up today, and we're on that support line going across here. But again, we've got the same headwind as gold does with increasing yields. And then platinum This to me looks like a very, very strong candlestick here, up 3%. Not quite a bearish engulfing, but it's pretty close, and we are breaking the downtrend line. We also have pretty good strength in palladium down here, which this also looks like a bottoming pattern with a bullish engulfing where we could go higher. So platinum and palladium are definitely where the strong sectors are in the precious metal area. And perhaps maybe gold can get its footing and move on higher, irrespective of what yields are potentially doing, like the 1970s. It's still a possibility. XE to gold ratio, we are down again. The miners are just getting ravished. It's probably due to perhaps higher oil prices. I know oil was up today, and we still have not broken through that big downtrend line, which is still above us. And we could even ignite further downside uh, here in the short term on gold and silver. Maybe this was a continuation pattern that we're going to break to the downside, meaning that maybe perhaps we've got a lot more um, oil problems ahead of us, energy problems, which will translate into higher costs for the gold and silver mining companies, and gold just has not moved high enough. And maybe there is potentially manipulation in the markets, because if there is manipulation, you'd see the gold and silver mining companies struggling to make any money. But that will eventually hit the supply side pretty hard. CRB index up about 1%, and that looks pretty good. We're breaking to the upside here. Nice big bullish engulfing. I am bullish. Up, up, up. And that's probably tied to my boy crude oil. I mean, my boy Platy ripped it today, guys. It ripped it. But I also have another boy called crude oil. I love crude. CRB to S&P, it looks like it's trying to put in a bottom here. Let's just basing out towards the lower end of a channel. We've got GDX slightly higher, but it looks like we haven't bottomed. Momentum is still to the downside. We've got GDXJ, same thing, momentum's to the downside, and SILJ, momentum to the downside. It looks like it's trying to do a little something on SILJ. Getting a little bit of wicks on all these. We'll see if it can put in a reversal candlestick, like a bullish engulfing or something like that tomorrow. Crude oil, I love it, guys. Crude oil starting to break to the upside. There we go. Is this the beginning of a move? Now, this could reverse tomorrow. I don't want to say that it's broken out and it's staying. We want to see follow through to the upside if this is a legit move. It could be a shoulder, head, shoulder with a breakout here. And a lot of the times, just to let you guys know before it occurs, we could break, do a retest, and then go. So just be patient here. TTF gas up 1.1%. We're up against some support level. The support level is that big basing pattern that we got. This is the same pattern as Newcastle coal for the most part. I mean, it's not as big, but there's your kind of nice big indecisive move of where we're going. But we're back to support. Nat gas in America is down 5%. We're back to that support level as well. We'll see if that holds. We've got XOP. Yeah, you know me. I know people like hearing that. We're back to support. And this looks like we could try to put in a bottom here. We need crude oil to get some follow through. And then I think it'll convince the investors that the equities are worth putting money into. But again, we're early. We got to see if we get a bottom here. OIH is also behaving a lot better today, up 1.3%. We're just underneath that support. We're trying to get some support here, and hopefully we can kick it back up a gear, up into the rising channel that we're in. And that is, I can draw this more, towards the bottom here like that. It's somewhere in that general vicinity there. So we're right real close on that support level. Profitable Uranium Trust continuing to move up today, 0.5%. Do we have more upside here? We'll see. It's not convincing in either direction. This could go either way, and with the markets the way that there are and the bullishness with a lot of these retail investors, I think we can go either direction here. URA also just a slight up day today, 0.5%. Again, this can go in either direction, but Longer term, looking at it on the weeklies here, I think we still have upside momentum. We have a little bloody nose. That's still a continuation pattern to the upside. Uranium down a little bit, but again, it's a little bloody nose. You're not getting tons of selling pressure here. And what that generally is it could create some sort of flag pattern or something like that over time until the buyers come in. And then URNJ also, it's the same thing. Not a ton of sellers. It's not really selling off, but again, are we going to get a gap fill? I don't know. We'll see. TAN up a little bit, but it is below support resistance. And there could be further downside if the sellers want to keep selling this thing off and if interest rates continue higher. The OPX slightly lower, but it looks like it's trying to find some support right where it's at. See that we've contracted in the two candlesticks in terms of the opening and closing prices. That's what this opening and closing, it's contracting into what potentially could be an equilibrium towards a support line. Lithium also selling off, momentum's to the downside. That could continue, even though we were up 0.8%. Same with rare earth metals, continuing with the momentum to the downside, but it is trying to turn around here, and we'll see how successful that turnaround is. The S&P 500 is up. It's trying to break through that resistance line. Is it going to bust through here? It kind of feels like it might. It's looking decent with not much selling pressure. I don't see big red candlesticks. No follow through there. Same with NASDAQ. No follow through in this here. So if they want to push this to the upside, it very well could go to the upside. The buyers, that is, could push it up there. Regional banks, it looks like it's up against support, 0.9% up today, and it still looks good to go higher. I'm in the camp that this is going to rip. Emerging markets, we've got a little bit of stabilization today, up 0.82%, but momentum's to the downside. I'd be holding off and waiting. XHB up 1.4%. I know we've got some housing starts released today. It was 1.4 something million housing starts, so that's good. And what I see here is probably sort of flag pattern pennant formation, which will continue higher. It looks good. Moo trying to find its footing, basically a sideways day. We are seeing slowing of this momentum coming back up, and we'll see if we can get follow through for a potential reversal. Again, I like to wait and see what that looks like for the reversal. If we get a huge up candlestick, then that's good. But if we get a weak little bounce, we could see a rollover back lower, which is basically a flag pattern, which is a continuation pattern to the downside. We've got copper trying to turn here. It's got a nice little hammer candlestick. We'll see what copper can do. And if we can break out of this pattern eventually. We did enter this pattern from the top side down where it could, not saying it will, it could continue lower. Iron ore still selling off a teeny bit today, but it looks like it's also trying to put in a bottom. It looks like everything's trying to put in a bottom here and try to turn. Doesn't mean we'll be successful in turning, but it looks like it's trying to. Aluminum down 0.45%, probably doesn't like the higher yields. And again, a lot of this is going to be hinging on the interest rates going down or stabilizing. But right now, the long end is going up. Baltic Dry Index down a teeny bit, down 1.2%. Looks like we're trying to put in some sort of I don't know if it's an accumulation cylinder here that we're going to try to rip. I don't know. We'll see. I'll leave that in there and see if this has any support. Newcastle coal's down at support. This looks very similar to some of the other commodities that we follow. And I think it's going to find support here at some point and start to rip. So I think it looks good. Bitcoin getting sold off today. This looks pretty nasty, actually. And this does look like we could see further downside in Bitcoin. Increasing interest rates seems to be what Bitcoin does not like. So if I were to put a TNX yield up here, so we're seeing yields come on up, and well, it really took off when yields turned here. Yields turned It's breaking that, and now this is starting to turn. It's almost like a delayed reaction to yields. But we'll see. We'll see. And then Ethereum's also selling off today. It's still above a lot of support. So this isn't dire up here. It still looks fine. Bitcoin's looks a little bit weaker. This could extend to the downside. But that's what I'm seeing in the markets today. Give me a thumb up for the content. Don't forget to do that. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the website if you're interested. We have a question and answer session coming up on Saturday at 7 a.m. Don't miss it if you want to ask me questions. I'll go over perhaps somebody brought up something about yields. The yield curve and yields, I've talked about it before, but we can go over it again. And I can give you my opinions on what is driving a lot of these assets, aka yields. Yields are driving a lot of this. So it's important to understand when you get a full alignment of something coming into alignment where an asset may outperform or underperform based off of what yields are doing. Uh, it's a complex market. People are trying to make decisions on a daily basis of where to put their money. And when you subject people to certain market conditions, they behave differently. And right now, we're seeing interest rates kind of come on up on that long end. And I think we are seeing some of the impacts on it to some degree. Uh, so that's what I'll say there. That's what I've got for today. And we'll catch you guys next time. This is Finding Value.